Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of the Summer Premiere Championship recap. I'm your host, Shadow Visions, uh, and I forgot to change this message to finals on the slide, so we're already off to a lovely start. But yeah, I'm joined here by two wonderful guests. We have Hyped Maniac, formerly now going by Mystrox, who has not
Hello.
participated in the tournament. But how are you doing, and what's been your experience like following this season?
It's been interesting being a lot more tuned in throughout the quarters onwards. Mainly I've just been doing friendlies, trying to get back into the game, come at it from a different angle. It's been a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, quarters onwards have been an absolute blast to watch. Uh, love the discussions, lots of good moments to look on, just to learn about the game. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely gotten back into the game a lot recently. Was there anything that you kind of attribute that to?
Uh, I opened a Marble Blast channel and I decided to play a game,
And you
and
got
it
hooked
spiraled from
again.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great to get to play against you and see you kind of adapt to the current state of multiplayer. And you've been really good. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
likewise. It's been really fun.
And then moving over to Connie, someone that I've wanted to get on the show all season, and I'm glad we could finally do it in the final episode. How are you doing today, Connie?
I'm doing very well. I'm pretty excited to be on the show finally for the final episode.
Yeah.
And I've had a little sort of episode of multiplayer. That's why I haven't really been invited on the show, but I'm glad to have recovered and be back to multiplayer and to watching the tournament and
Mm-hmm.
all.
Awesome. If you had
Yeah.
to pick a favorite match or opponent that you played this season, what would it be?
Honestly, I honestly think Frostfire, even though I lost, because I don't know, it feels good to be playing one of the titans of multiplayer, even if you get knocked out at the end. But just being able to get on the stage and show off your skills, it's interesting. It's amazing now that I look back to it, even though my feelings in the moment were a bit sort of negative-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, myself and you have that in common. We both had the misfortune of having to play Frostfire twice in one season, which is very impressive. Half of Frost games are basically against you or me. So I'm
It is
sure
what it is.
sure you had a fun time playing Eye of the Storm and Nadir. But let's get into it. Let's review some of our semifinals, which were, to be honest, a lot more one-sided than I think a lot of people expected with the score lines. Off you know, the top, we have a 4-0 here, a sweep going the way of the 19 seed of the tournament, Mazik, who was, of course, wildly underseeded coming into the playoffs, given his poor run of form towards the end of Swiss. But now he's going to move on and be a finalist after a very strong showing against Bob Rika. But I have to say, this is probably one of the closest 4-0s you'll ever see in a series, just looking at the scores.
Yeah.
Um, so let's start with you, Mistrox. What was kind of your overall thoughts on the match and the outcome?
Overall, well, as you've said, very, very close. I think a lot of these games could have gone either way, mainly because of key decision making in like the last 15 seconds. The only match where I'd say one person demonstrated decent dominance over the other was Skate Battle Royale. Uh, and I'll talk about why I think that's the case once we actually get to that match. But yeah, most of these games could have gone either way,
Mm-hmm.
and be it because of luck, be it because of technical accuracies or inaccuracies, they just kept going the way of Mazik, which I think is unlucky to Bobby. He absolutely gave a performance that was more than deserving of a 4-0. Well, deserved more than a 4-0, I should say.
Yeah, gotta be careful with the phrasing there.
Yeah,
Uh,
bad phrasing, my bad.
You're good. Connie, as for you, what were your kind of thoughts, and did it kind of line up with your predictions coming into the match? Because I think I recall you having Bobby as like much more of a chance than a lot of people did.
Yeah, I predicted a 4-3 for Mazik because Well, there's also the Swiss round where Bobby and Mazik came head to head, and Bobby Rica swept Mazik. Of course, there were probably some personal circumstances with Mazik, but still, that's sort of a feat. So I was like, if Bobby Rica can pull that performance again, and I know he can, and I like at the moment, I was like, yeah, he could probably do that because he is very determined to win, you know, and he's also very good. So I was like, I think he could bring Magic to a randomizer. Um, but it wasn't that way, unfortunately, because as some people have said, Bobby Rica really deserved to have at least like 2 or 3 wins on some maps. Citadel especially was a bit unfortunate for Bobby Rica. Mazik had that very lucky spawn on that top pillar in the blue part, where he was able to gyrocopter over there and be able to win basically in the last few seconds. Um, but yeah, I expected it to be a bit closer, but it is what it is.
And let's actually start with Citadel because you're a player that really loves this Citadel pick. I know you played it against me in our series. Um, what kind of did Mazik do well in order to actually get this map across the line? Because he picked it up against Nakas, and that looked like a real blunder for him, as Nakas was able to win by almost 30 points, I think.
I think what Magic did well in Citadel was using the teleporters. Well, there were some teleporter usages from Magic where I saw he preemptively used the teleporter and then the spawn spawned right like next to the other spawn, and I thought that was like just a bit of a blunder because once you teleport all the way to the center, it's very hard to get back, and so the opponent can get all the spawn, all the spawns. But also his teleporter usage really helped with one specific blue, and I really liked that play there where he teleported to the center and then teleported to the blue part, where the blue spawned on the part facing the teleporter. And that's a play that I really liked from him.
Mm-hmm. I think I know which
So
one
yeah,
you're
I think
talking
that's what.
about. It's in this area of the map.
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Yeah,
blue that spawned on the slope that faces the part of the teleporter. If I'm wording myself
Yep.
correctly. Yeah, that's what I think he did well. He used the teleporters. Even if some of the teleporter usages were blunders, he still did use them, which sometimes I don't really see people doing.
Yeah. Okay, let's go over to you, Mystrox. How was Barbarica able to keep this one so close?
Bobby, he only ever used, I think, one teleporter in this match. What this match really came down to was a clashing between two very different ways of playing Citadel. Mazik obviously very reliant on the teleporters, very principled. Bobby making exceptionally good use of the super speeds just dotted around the map and doing it the old-fashioned way. He was also really good with traversing slopes that would give a lot of players difficulty. Very nice lines from him that allowed him to keep up with Mazik's teleporting. Yeah, I think that really does just boil down how he managed to keep it so close despite not using the teleporters as much, because the teleporters, they give you all the power-ups you need, they put you in the center. It is kind of an ideal spot to be, but he's just that fast. He managed to keep up, and it showed.
Yeah, there were some fortunate times where Mazik went to use the teleporter default, and Barbarica had the spawn appear pretty close to him.
Yeah,
And I think that definitely helped as well. But let's talk about the end of the match because it looked like Barbarica was going to be able to win. And then at the last moment, that huge pillar spawned at the top of it, and Mazik was able to get from the center over there. But I think, Mistrox, you said there was a chance that Barbarica had to tie the game,
yeah,
at least.
yeah. At least tie. It's easy to think that spawn was, just perfect for Mazik, and Bobby just got completely destroyed by luck in that moment, but that's not the case. Right behind Bobby, when that second to last spawn finish was an expired yellow, right behind him, and
Mm.
near that one as well was another expired yellow. Had he gotten one of them, which was completely possible for him, he would have tied the game. Had he managed to get two, which may not be easy, but maybe possible, he is fast, he would have won. What I think really gave Mazik the win here was less luck and more so Bobby not keeping track of the expired yellows, because had he been doing that, he very easily could have tied. Very, very easily.
Yeah,
and
that's
we would have
interesting.
we would have very quickly gone to another match where anything could have happened.
Right.
And yeah,
There's
it's a very instructive moment. Keep track of the expireds because it can win you the game in the last 10 seconds.
not only that, but keep track of the match clock. Knowing how long
Yeah,
it takes to get from the center to that spawn, you probably could have given some assessment of how many yellows Mazik could have picked up. Because obviously in Bobby's head, he's probably thinking like, oh, there's gonna be enough time that Mazik can get the whole spawn. I need to get there and contest. Because obviously if Mazik gets the whole spawn, then he wins the game. If Bobby's not
yeah,
there. So maybe a little bit of panic, a little bit of miscalculation, a little bit of composure from the side of Mazik to be able to make
yeah.
that play in the last moment. And that's kind of a trend that we're going to explore throughout the series. Mazik has now gone from 3-4-1s to a 4-0, feeling like a very clutch player, pretty much the opposite of what we saw in Swiss. Do you think that is kind of a true factor of his play, or is this kind of just his level of play being consistently higher than his opponents?
Um, well, it's very hard to actually answer that question without having played Mazik in a tournament. The results would indicate that he is relatively clutch. He does squeak it out and manage to win games in a dominant fashion, whereas the scores might indicate otherwise. But having played him in friendlies, he he can get kind of suppressed in a way that doesn't really allow him to make comebacks. I experienced that with him today. Won't say the map, to be fair, but he can be suppressed. So maybe there's a difference between how he plays in tournaments and in friendlies, and I just can't answer that question because I haven't played him in a tournament.
Yeah, my thoughts go back to when Mazik was able to win Cascade Falls by 1 point over John, or Escape Park Square by 1 blue over Nakas. It seems like we've kind of seen this trend where all the close matches have gone his way in playoffs. And yeah, that's something that we'll just have to keep an eye on because it's definitely given him the one up in a lot of these series with a top line score much different than you would expect. Let's move on to Stadium now, Connie. I want to get you back in here. A very back and forth game. What were your overall thoughts on the match?
I think both players played solidly. I know this is one of Bobby Rica's favorite maps, maybe his signature map, because he won on it against me in the winter warm up, and after that he just liked this map. He likes to go really fast on it, and he's good at it. So I expected this to be close, as it was. The final blue was a bit of a tragedy with both players missing it, and Bob Riga having a very good chance of tying the game up there. But it just wasn't. Yeah, again, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's twice now where it kind of felt like that the pressure got to Bobby at the end of the match, and unfortunately, those were the two maps that it felt like he really had a chance to tie it up. And Stadium has been his kind of signature pick thus far, and notably, he picked it against Mazik in week 6 and was able to win that one pretty convincingly. It actually helped inspire Kago to pick it against Mazik in the playoffs, and he was able to win that one by 1 gem as well, despite being kind of a huge underdog in that matchup. So it was definitely a little bit of a surprise to see Mazik be able to contend so heavily. Obviously, he's practiced this map probably more than any other map since the playoffs started, seeing it as a weak point for himself. Mystrox, what kind of your thoughts on Stadium and why was Mazik able to win throughout the game?
Well, one thing we need to remember is that Bobby had a pretty big comeback. Mazik practice paid off for him in the first half. He was leading by, I think, close to 20 on a map like Scatium, where most of the gems will be yellows, and the players for the most part will be splitting them relatively evenly between spawns. It is very hard to reel that back. He demonstrated really good mechanical accuracy in the first half of the game, gave him a really nice lead. And if we wanted to get into Bobby's comeback, I think that lead he actually built for himself was enough of a cushion to allow him to stay afloat in the second half, where he, I think, started making a few more very costly mistakes.
Now, given this is Bobby's signature, I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on something that Bobrica mentioned in a Discord the other day or week after the match. Is that he said in order to have a signature map that he's confident in, he needs to win 80 to 90% of games on it against other top players. So do y'all kind of agree with that statement? Do you think it's reasonable for something to be considered a signature, or can a signature be just a map that you really enjoy playing and often pick in tournaments without necessarily bringing the results?
I think an 80 to 90% win rate on any map against top players nowadays is pretty untenable. If top players nowadays notice that, they're being beaten out on one map quite a lot, they're probably going to practice it. They're going to get to grips with it, especially in a tournament setting where it will be seen, as you say, as a weak link on their end. So 80 to 90%, bit high in my books. I think it really just boils down to, are you good at the map? Do you like it? And do you have good knowledge of it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel like it boils down to.
Any thoughts, Connie?
Yeah, I think like the 80-90% win rate is a bit too high, especially when it comes to top players such as, Frostfire, Zedron, Mazik, whatever. It's you will not be able to win on a map that much. You just will not, because people will see, as Mystrox said, people will see that they're losing on a map over and over again, and they'll practice it, and eventually they may be able to tie you up or even beat you on it. Even my signature, I'm giving myself as an example again, I'm sorry. Even my former signature map, Exoplanet, I think I've had like 2 people beat me on it, and maybe someone else beat me on it in friendlies more. But I did not have an 80-90% win rate on it, and it was still considered my signature map up until it was removed from the map pool.
Yeah.
If I may make one more point about that, I think that's very unfair to like progressing players as well, because 80 to 90% win rate against top players, how are you ever going to have a signature map by that logic if you're,
Right. I
at
think
that kind
I
of skill
think the
level?
bar should be players of your own kind of
Yeah.
tier.
Yeah.
Because if you can consistently win against players that are similarly skilled to you, then that's kind of how you know that you're better than average on that map and should look to pick it again.
I agree.
And the example I gave Bobby is like, if you want to set the bar at 80%, it's like, well, you're only really looking at like Frostfire architecture at that level. And then after I said that, I beat Frostfire on architecture. So I really don't think it's like possible for any top player to kind of keep that level of win rate. Now, I think like 2/3 and below, we can definitely like see that. And that's something that you should for sure like strive to do as good as you can and win as many games as you can. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting point to consider. On that note, let's move to Mazik's signature map, Triple Trail, which he picked in Game 3 against Bobrica. I'm sure Bobby knew this one was coming. So, Connie, how was Mazik able to make this one work for him?
Well, he's just good at it. Honestly, I don't know. Like, he knows the teleporters. I assume he knows the teleporters really well and where they teleport. Um, he's just able to move around the map very quickly because he's comfortable on it. And it is his signature map. This is one of the maps that I think of when I think of Mazik as a tournament player. So I'm not really surprised that he had a bigger lead than the other games on this one. Even if Bobby Rica practiced it beforehand, which I know he practiced it beforehand because I'm pretty sure it was streaming in my server when he did it.
And he also announced it in the web chat, so that definitely
Oh.
helped as well. What about you, Mystrox? What did you notice from this game?
Well, how do I want to go about this? A lot of the times, on this map in particular, if you're on different islands, there's a solid chance that the next spawn will just go to one person. That welcome to Triple Trail. That's a fact of life, and that happened twice, one for each player. But I think it happened at a far more critical point in favor of Mazik with like 20 seconds left to go. It gave him a higher value spawner as well than the one the map decided to give to Bobby. Honestly, both of them played pretty well. on this. It could have gone either way. And I think the only real difference was that Mazik never undershot an island and was then forced to respawn back on the one he jumped off of, whereas Bobby did that, I think, twice in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because he just didn't have the power-ups and felt pressured. It's understandable. I think both times he tried doing something with a Mega and it failed, so maybe that's something to keep in mind if you're deciding to pick that in the future. Mega's maybe not that reliable. But yeah, it was a close match. I think more so than the score would indicate. A lot of it did come down to luck of the draw, with two players being on different islands and then the spawn happening where it did.
Yep.
And
That's always
honestly,
a
respect to
danger.
Bobby. Respect to Bobby. He did do very well here, despite what the score would indicate. He held up incredibly well, had some excellent blasts, nice uses of megas, even though they did betray him with traversing. And his routing here as well was very good.
Yep.
So a shame to see it as wide as it was.
Definitely very competitive. And yeah, when you're like ahead on this map, you definitely want to be on the same island as your opponent, because otherwise there's a chance that they just get a whole spawn to themselves. If two players on different islands, there's a 2/3 chance that the next spawn is going to go to one of the islands that one player is on. There's only a 1/3 chance that it's going to be on the island no one's on, and at that point it's going to be more of a fair fight. So if you're ahead, you want to introduce, or you want to eliminate kind of the variance of being on different islands. And if you're behind, something I'll do is I'll just abandon the spawn and go to a different island to try and take a gamble. Because if you're behind, it's like you have nothing to lose, right? You may as well take a risk to get back into the game. And yeah, Bobby just kind of needed to keep up a little bit more with the mega traversals. And either be prepared with a different power up or execute better in order to keep up with Mazik. But this was the one map that I feel like Bob Rika probably was expecting to come and not go his way. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's the end of the world that he was dropping this game. It's just really stings with the fact that this was now 0-3 down for him.
Yeah, Mazik described this as a comfort pick for him, and he said he fully expected Bobby to see it coming, but he still felt confident that he could win on it, and he did. So props to him.
And finally, we have Skate Battle Royale. This is a map that Bob Rika picked against Endy and was able to win even with a massive ping disadvantage. So I'm sure he was feeling good about it up into Mazik. But the way Mazik kind of went around about playing this map is very, very different than the one that than the style that Endy would have used, especially. So what kind of went Mazik's way that he was able to have a mostly decisive victory? Like, I know the score is closer than Triple Trail, but he really was just managing a lead the entire game. And I
Connie,
guess,
do you want to speak on that one first?
Yeah, sure. What I think Mazik did well was he chose like very good defaulting spots, especially when that blue spawned up top. I think defaulting spot where Mazik chose and where Bobby Rika mostly chose, I don't even know how to describe them. I think Mazik's spot was better, and he was just able to get a blue. I remember specifically he got a blue way faster than Bobby Rika. And his traversal was better than Bobby Rika's, in my opinion. So examples don't come up in my head right now. But that's sort of my impression of what Mazik did better than Bobby Rika. It's just better defaulting spot choices and better traversal of the map overall.
anything to add, Mystrox?
Honestly, Connie's covered everything in the gameplay I could have said. All I'll say is that this is probably Bobby's unluckiest pick of the match. Well, to be fair, he only had two, but this was notably unlucky for him. I don't know if he could have known this, but Mazik had been preparing this map for MBO, so he was versed in this. He knew what to do, and I don't know if Bobby wanted to catch him off guard, but he unfortunately did pick a map that Mazik was, as I say, quite versed in at the time.
Yep, the two of us have practiced quite a bit to get him ready for that game, and so he has a very good understanding of where to default with that super jump. And there was a moment in the game that I was very impressed with Mazik when I was casting, where there was a blue that went to Bob Rika. He had a couple second lead, And instead of like trying to chase after him and contest the blue like a lot of less experienced players would, he just super jumped up to the top and got 5 reds and completely negated the lucky spawn that would have otherwise gone to Bobby and completely
Yeah,
neutralized it. And so that kind of
incredible.
lead management is what really kind of sealed the deal in both the game and the series for him.
Yeah, incredible nerve control. It was
Yeah.
just a very good moment from him.
Yep, and that is actually the whole series. So yeah, a little bit less meat to cover than I guess a lot of people were predicting coming into it. And so Mazak's gonna be moving on to the finals, and he's still a very new player as well. This is only like his second tournament where he really had like a strong performance. So good for him. All right, and then match of the week is still only a 4-1, but I think this was pretty decisively the one that people voted for. I think, yeah, 83% of the people voted for this one, match of the week, and unfortunately Frostfire is still looking like John. I forgot to change that one, but sorry, Frost. Yeah, this was a rematch of the Week 6 Swiss, just like Mazik versus Bobby, and I think people were pretty split overall on who was going to take it. I think I was a slight favorite in betting, but A Game also betted for me. So I think he wasn't really aware that it was going to be a closer betting than people thought. So yeah, I guess let's start with overall thoughts on the series before diving into each individual game, and we can start with Connie again.
Yeah, this series I also thought it would be closer, and I also thought it would go the way of Frostfire because in my mind I just have him as like this one player made of titanium that no one can beat. But you proved me wrong, and it was way less close than I thought it would be. 4-1 going to your into your pocket. Um, yeah, and also the PCC tie game of the entire tournament, in my opinion. My heart was pumping watching that live as if I were the one playing it.
Yeah, you can only imagine how mine was.
Yeah.
I had to get up and walk around after that tie.
Yeah, I can
Coming back
imagine.
down. What about you on the other side?
Um, well, barring Prophetic, which we'll talk about, a lot of this just boiled down to, I think, key power-ups that people were able to exploit, either in very specific moments, yeah, just honestly, just in very specific moments in a way that outperformed the other person, and that was what allowed them to uh, take the win. That's been the case in Points of the Radar, case in Arky, and Blast Club, I'd argue. Less so in the last two.
Gotcha. Okay, let's dive into Points of the Radar then. A map that this is my third time picking in the tournament. Previously was able to defeat both Frost and Zedron on it. So this was something I was hoping to come out the gate swinging with, but unfortunately did not go that way. So what was Frostfire able to do well in order to be the first one to beat me on this map? Oh, sorry. We can start with Mystrox this time.
Okay. Well, he was incredibly fast. I'll say that. He held his own in making sure he didn't fall behind in blasts. He didn't allow you to just scoop up the central two and bully him around. I think at the end he had this incredible double super speed. He respawned directly on top of a super speed, took that, denied you traversal, I think picked up another super speed through the middle, and then went to the complete other side of the island. That spawn, not only was it bad for you given the circumstances, but it was just an incredible display of his mechanical accuracy. He was very good in that match. You also were as well. But yeah, Frost was very, very fast, very adept at blasting as well, and it was what allowed him to seal the deal.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add, Connie?
Uh, well, my thoughts are exactly as Mystrox's, and I also think Frostfire practiced this map going into a match against you because of his past experiences with you against you on the map. So it felt like he was a bit more comfortable this time around. And he was very fast, as Mystrox said, so that got him the dub.
Right, and I want to highlight playing against him. The biggest thing I noticed from the first time we played to this time is that he was excellent with denying blasts. The first time we played, it felt like he had never picked the map before or never played the map before, which was my hope picking it going into him. As well as the fact that I'm typically very good and have good results on it. But Frost typically doesn't play kind of the really niche stuff. He's kind of a little bit weak in his map pool compared to some of the other top players, and I thought this would work, and it did. But since then, he definitely practiced. He was blasting me off just to deny another blast to deny another blast because there's two in the center that you can control. So whenever I was cleaning up a spawn that I was able to take and he was stuck in the center waiting for the next spawn, he actually denied both blasts instead of just kind of sitting there like he would in the first time. So that adaptation is what makes a player like Frost so scary. And to be honest, after I lost by like 10 points on this map, I was like, okay, it was a good run at the tournament, guys. But as we'll see, I was able to turn it around on Architecture, which is Frostfire's signature map, one that he is most feared on. And I think he beat me by almost 60 points in the first time. But I was able to win it by 6 here. So Mystrox, how was that possible, and how was the match so back and forth throughout?
Right. I really boil what this result was down to one power-up in particular. You see the ice section? The blast in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why I think this... Yeah, right there. That blast. There's a reason why I think that one is so good. So both of you have been using this new default where you fall down the pillar and you go up, right?
Right.
There's two reasons you want to do that. First of all, it's generally just nicer to be on the top. You can fall on a bunch of stuff, and if the spawn's on the top, you're closer to it. Secondly, you want to get a blast, because there's a blast up top.
Many
The
blasts
reason
up
why
top.
you want to get a blast, there's many blasts, but down bottom there's only one,
Right.
and it's the one you're hovering over. If you can get that blast down bottom, then you are in really good position, because there's no others down there, and as you can see, those default spots where you fall are far away from the ice section. So if
Right.
you get that and you don't share it with your opponent, you're in an amazing position to dominate the next spawn.
Especially if it stays on
And
the bottom of
yeah,
the map.
yeah, and time again that happened. Frost got it. He managed to take a blue from you. You got it, I think, twice, and you managed to completely throw him off as well. Had that blast gone to one person consistently, I think that one person would have convincingly won. It was so huge for both of you, and you just happened to get it more. So well played.
Yeah, I guess no one is surprised that I'm routing for blasts very often, especially the bottom one. Connie, what kind of were your thoughts on the game watching it live? Most likely being surprised at the result as well.
Honestly, the game itself was very exciting, and I was impressed by the fact you were able to beat Frostfire on his signature map, given how good Frostfire is. Um, but there were a few moments. I think there was a moment where Frostfire got sort of caught within the fans of the little ice section with the fans at the top. So I think there might have been some nerves at play, although I don't know how much Frostfire is affected by nerves, but I do think he has nerves of steel most of the time. But I do think nerves were a bit of at play here for his loss, and also just you being a very blastiful boy really helped in your win. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, similar theme going to be with Prophetic, but on Archie, I probably played this map like 50 times in the week leading up to it. And when I know exactly what my opponent is going to pick, I am able to focus all my practice and get better. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
was able to do this time. And it was barely enough on Archie, at least. Moving over to Blast Club, I was hoping that while this is an MBU map, this is one that Frost probably hasn't played in many years. And to be honest, what inspired me is Babarika's match up against E-Guy, where he was able to pull this one out. I completely forgot this map existed, to be honest, but it seemed like the kind of thing that I would be good at. And so I kind of picked it up in the past week as a secret weapon against Frost, and I was able to pull it out. And it was a close game, but I was able to win towards the end. I think there were some key moments with the blasts. that
Yeah.
he wasn't ready for.
If I may mention, your only willing interaction with this map was banning it against Jean in randomizer in the Swiss. So you picking this is very surprising. I thought you wouldn't be confident on it.
Yep. Connie, any thoughts on what went well for myself or Frost during the game?
I think you were just better with blasts overall. Like, you're a very blast-centric player, so even as Mystrox said, you banned this map against Jean. I wasn't really surprised, even given that, seeing you pick it. I did expect it to be more of a fight, maybe 82 to 80 or something like that, considering that it is an MBU map and Crossfire is a bit of an unk. So, and he's also good with blasts, but you were just a bit better that match.
Yep. Again, he really surprised me with how effective his blasts were on this map. It's something that he's really worked on since coming back to the game this year. And it was very strong. There were multiple times where he hit me into a wall and I lost most of the spawn. There were just a few more moments that I had where I was able to do that, and that's ultimately what won the game, especially towards the end. And
yeah, you had this one very, very, well, I think Narcus described it as cagey moment with him where you were both camping directly on top of each other trying to get the better end of two blasts. And speaking from experience, you are good at that. So that was very big for you in allowing you to secure the win on Blast Club.
I do love a good game of Blast Chicken, where you have to decide whether to blast first or second when you know both people have it. Yeah, I tend to come out on top in those moments. As for John, this map wasn't even on my radar at the time, and also this is exactly the kind of map that John would want against me, considering that we were on Nuremberg ping. It's a very ping dependent map, given it's small. It has a lot of blasts and megas, so yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to Prophetic, which was the other map that Frost picked against me, and one that he's very well known for as well. It was a very close game when we did play it up against each other in week 6. I think he ended up winning by 5 points, despite him having like a 40-point lead at one point during that game. You can pull it back on a map like Prophetic. And kind of the opposite happened this time. Frost got off to a very poor start, and I was able to build and manage a lead from there. Mystrox, what were your thoughts on the game?
The first 2 minutes of this, they were just painful to watch from Frosty because he is an absolutely phenomenal player. But he continually put himself in positions where he was grabbing the last red without a power up, way off in the corner of the map, and didn't let himself have the tools or the positioning that he needed in order to catch up. And it just kept happening and happening, and it snowballed into, I think, a 50-point lead for you at some point. Toward the end of the game, he actually did manage to bring it back somewhat once he, regrouped, started playing how he usually does, demonstrated that. I mean, if he had played the first couple minutes up to what he's usually capable of on that map, then he absolutely could have won. But Prophetic, every spawn is so high value. If you are making those mistakes at the start, it's incredibly hard to claw it back, especially against someone who is so relatively close in skill to you.
Yep. And by the end of the game, with a lead like 30, 40 points, I was in management mode. I wasn't trying to get to every spawn the fastest. As long as I got some of every spawn, the game was going to go my way. And so playing like that does give you a chance for an opponent to get some margin back into the game if they're able to be very quick like Frostfire is. But it is very good at closing the door on a potential comeback. Because unless they can wipe every spawn, it's going to be very hard with the time that was left to do so. Connie, did you have anything to add for this one?
Well, not really. Basically, just what Mystrox said. The first half of the match was a bit painful to watch from Frostfire. I think in the very first second, he had a little blunder where he super sped into an edge and bounced him back while you were going straight towards the blue and just got the entire spawn and had a very commanding lead. 20 to like 7, I think. I don't remember exactly in like the first minute. He did manage to bring it back, though. I think in the commentary someone mentioned that he's finally waking up. But it just was too little too late. because on a map like this, it's very hard to come back with very high value, very concentrated spawns. Whereas if someone is very good at navigating the map and doesn't bump into everything or fall into holes, you can just get an entire spawn very easily.
Absolutely. Especially when he kind of was feeling the pressure to get some points on the board every single spawn. That led to him picking up the last red without being prepared a lot, and so I was able to get tempo and snowball that sort of early mistake
Yeah.
from him into a huge lead. That's how I was able to do it. Okay, let's move on to Platinum Construction Co. I guess we can talk about the tie first, Connie. What were your thoughts on what a close game that was?
Wow, it was insane to watch. I don't remember exact moments, but just the feeling of seeing the score swing and then go into a tie, it was just wow. I think there were nerves at play for both players, especially for Frostfire because it was match point
Tournament point for
and
him, yeah.
tournament point, and that naturally puts a lot of pressure onto even like people who have nerves of steel. So just watching that, it was very exciting to witness that.
Nice. Any thoughts on the first game for you, Mystrox?
Uh, yeah, well, what Connie said, obviously Frost was going to be experiencing a lot of nerves at that time, him being one game away from elimination. But he demonstrated a actually very remarkable awareness of the map throughout that game. He did get bailed out a couple times by some kind of lucky spawns, especially on those wooden ramps off to the side, where you were more prepared, and in most situations he would have been better. I think the same happened again when he had a super jump on the bottom level and you had a super speed, and then a blue just decided to spawn all the way at the top island. Kind of tough, but he was also very consistent on that round. I think he probably should have won it on the first one, but he did play pretty well. Maybe he's not super familiar with it because it is one of the newer maps. But yeah, he did do pretty well.
Yeah, I felt very fortunate I was able to tie because, I mean, he got a lot of lucky spawns in my opinion. But I mean, he played very well mechanically, and he was definitely in a position to capitalize on it. He probably played better than me in terms of mechanics, but the reason I pick a map like this into Frostfire is because of the map knowledge diff. And there were a lot of times in both games that I felt like I read the spawn better, like where it was, whether that was up top or on the side, and I knew the better respawn abuse way to get there. And that's exactly what I'm hoping for in this kind of pick, is that makes the difference for me. And in the first game, it definitely did not. Every time
Yeah,
I would have had that sort of lead, the spawn was very close to him, especially at the end of the game, when it was basically tied and I was in a better position for the average next spawn, and the spawn just comes up right next to where he is. So I had to make a crazy play on the last spawn with the super speed to secure the tie. I also had blast. And yeah, if I didn't tie that, I think I was in a lot of trouble because his next pick was probably going to be something like Sprawl, that he would be very favored on. And at that point, I would just have to take some luck on randomizer at that point and see what happens, which not
how
what
was
I wanted to
your
do when I was up 3-1.
yeah? How would your mental have felt had you lost that one?
Um, at the time, I didn't feel super hard done by luck, or randomness or anything like that because I was just so stressed going from spawn to spawn and doing the best I can. It honestly, it was only really when I watched it back and I was like, oh yeah, I should have been in a better position for a lot of these spawns, but it didn't pan out. That I really saw that. So I think it would have just been, oh, I screwed up like points of the radar on my own pick and move on from there. Try and win a third one of his picks.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, so then we have the second round on PCC. Was there anything different? I mean, the key moment for me was when Frost. It was a pretty close game. It was within 10 points. Maybe I had a small lead, and the spawn was at the bottom, and he fell out of the chute and respawned up top. So I got the whole thing. and also had momentum from there. Was that kind of also the what y'all noticed, or was there any other moments that were relevant?
Let's see. What did I write about it? Okay, I'll say map familiarity in this one. Frost didn't get bailed out as much by the spawns. You definitely were more than capable to capitalize on the knowledge difference. You also had some very nice blasts to deny blasts. I can't remember the exact moment it happened, but yeah, you did do exceptionally well at that. Can you just repeat the question, please?
Oh, I just was asking if there were any like relevant moments in the game that stood out to you.
Uh, let's see. I had a good note for this. Yeah, one of those moments. Frost was again on the bottom layer with a super jump, and I think there was either a middle layer or top layer spawn again. And this will happen unless you're very familiar with PCC. He super jumps and then hits his head off of an overhang.
Oh yeah, that one really
I think
sucks.
that's the moment I think that's. I mean, he was going badly before that for him. I think he was already like 15 down, but I think that's the moment that really just killed his chances. It sucks. That's PCC. There's so much jank on that map that fun jank, but jank that will get in the way of you unless you're very familiar with it. And yeah, it was a good pick because eventually that kind of stuff was going to come back to bite him, and it did. It's a good pick by you.
Yeah, and then kind of looking at it overall, we picked 4 maps in Swiss. It went to randomizer. All 4 of the maps that were picked in week 6 were picked again in this series by us. Now, if Frost got one more point on PCC in the first game, all 4 of them would have gone the opposite way. So I guess what are your thoughts on that coming into a rematch in the playoffs?
Connie, got any thoughts?
Uh, Honestly, on this specific thing, I don't really have any thoughts.
Honestly, I was kind of just trying to, you know, send the question over to you because I also don't have any thoughts. Shadow, you got any?
I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Especially given there wasn't any like ping difference. Well, I guess there was, because Frost moved out to Arizona and now was playing on the Hillsborough server before we were both on Ashburn, and it was pretty fair. So maybe that did play a little bit of a role, the ping difference. Definitely on a map like Blast Club or Points of the Radar, you could say that ping does matter a little bit. But overall, I think we just made sure to get good at the other person's maps, knowing that they went so decisively that they're probably going to be picked again. And yeah, the practice paid off for both of us in some different ways. Okay, now before we go to third place, I just wanted to check in with the final ELO update of the season. Well, I guess after the finals in third place, this will change one more time, but this is the last one that's going to be on the show. So I ended up taking first place from Frostfire, and Mazik moved up over Zedron, and Babarika went down below Eguy. I'm guessing there isn't too much to say here, but I guess Mystrox, since this is the first time that you've probably taken a look at this, what are your kind of thoughts on the rankings?
Number 1 in your first tournament. How does that feel?
It feels like I still have a final to win. Before I get too excited about it. I mean, Mazik's looking very threatening down there. 2 points off Frost as well.
Yeah, absolutely no pushover. I'll be really excited to see how the finals go.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. Connie, how are you feeling about the overall rankings? Do you think it's representative? Do you like seeing yourself in the top 10?
Yeah, especially seeing how stacked this tournament was, I'm pretty satisfied with top 10 now that I think about it. Maybe I could have gone a bit higher were I playing a bit better, maybe, or were I to get more wins in the Swiss round, or were the challenge were maybe just a bit nice to me. But it is what it is once again. And I'm also impressed of your performance, being at the top for your first tournament, as Mystrox said, it must feel amazing.
It does. It feels very good having my work validated. And I mean, at this point, I've taken wins over three incredible players: Frost, Voltage, and Zedron, and knocked them all out of the tournament. So, regardless of what happens in finals, I can say I left my mark on the game. But I definitely still have a job to do, so that's what I'm focused on. All right. Let's go back into predictions. It seems like the third place match is going to happen, which is great news for everyone. Bobberika up against Frostfire. I have gone for a 5-1 in Frosty's favor, and so have you, Mystrox. So why don't you talk a little bit about why you think that?
Yeah. So we've seen from Frosty that he has moments of weakness. We saw that on Prophetic, but I think he'll have ample time to reflect on that with Barbarica being on holiday right now. And I don't think we're going to see that kind of continual mistakes from him again. I think Barbarica probably has an ace up his sleeve. Maybe he busts out one of his signature maps and Frosty's caught off guard. Bobby is pretty adept on a lot of PQ maps. Did I say Frosty or Bobby there? Bobby's adept at PQ maps. But Frosty, I think, is just very mechanically sound. He has a lot of experience in tournaments, and he is going to be better on the majority of maps. So yeah, I think Bobby absolutely has a chance to take one, maybe two games. But I would be very surprised if it goes more in his favor than that.
Give me a map that you think Bobberika would be favored over Frostfire on.
Scatium.
Okay, there it is. And he definitely has that pick available still. Hasn't used it except against Mazik, so probably won't be surprised to see that one come out. I don't think Frost has played it a ton in tournament season. Obviously, he's capable. Moving on, Connie, why don't you tell us about your prediction?
Okay, my prediction is probably the odd one out, and it's because in my mind I was thinking like the third place match, it's sort of overshadowed by the finals, so maybe Frosty will be a bit more checked out of it. So I assume maybe he won't play, at his peak, which might allow Bobby Rica to get him to randomizer. And also Bobby Rica, even if he was disappointed with his loss, in the semifinals, I do think he'll bring out his desire to win here too. So he will probably play not on his peak, but he will probably play good. Like he won't be checked out of the game or of the match.
Right.
That's sort of my logic.
What kind of maps do you think Bobberika would find success against Frost on?
Maybe Scadium, as Smashrock said, but I also think Valcube Revisited, which you listed here on the Venn diagram, seeing as it's a map with gravity modifiers, and those tend to really, like, players don't really like those. Players don't really like maps with gravity modifiers. They're really confusing. And Valcube Revisited feels like a map that Bob Rick is really good at, so he could probably get a dub on it against Frostfire, in my opinion.
Yep. I think a challenge for Bobby is that his picks are all going to be on the Hillsborough server, which he probably gets about 200 ping to. And that can make it very hard to win maps that are smaller, like Battle Cube, where you would originally think that he has a good chance on. Like MBO picked Battle Cube against Frost and was able to win. But obviously that was on the same server. And so it's a lot harder when you kind of have that hill to climb.
Yeah.
But I mean, he could still make it work, right? I mean, he won Blast Club against E-Guy and narrowly lost Battle Cube Revisited. And he also
Yeah,
won
he
Battle
still has a
Cube.
chance.
So I think he can. I think the other thing in his favor is that Frost is probably not going to play the game again for quite a while, except for this third place match. So Bobberika will probably have more games played leading up to the series and should be refreshed following another vacation. So I think that could work in his favor. I think this will be an incredible experience for Bobberika, getting to play up against a legend like Frostfire of the game, who plays quite differently to a lot of the other people that he's matched up against, like Mazik and Endy. Frost is definitely a titan of the game that I think he's going to learn a lot from, but I do expect Frost to take this one pretty decisively.
Honestly, what a story from Bobby. One of the youngest players. He comes in, I think it's his second tournament, and he makes it to semis. That's just feel good.
And he's
That's just
also
amazing.
Romanian, so I'm proud of my country representing the third place, possibly. Possibly.
How many times do you have to plug Romania, Connie?
It's gonna happen, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We'll have to see if he can continue carrying the Romanian torch next year. Moving on to the grand final between myself and the 19 seed Mazik. I don't think there will ever be another 5 versus 19 matchup in the finals. So enjoy it while you can, guys. Obviously, I didn't predict this one. Mystrox, you've gone for a 5-2 in my favor. So let's start with you and kind of break down why you think that.
Yeah. Again, I've never played either of you in a tournament setting. I can't speak to how you might differ in those environments. I just think from having played you both in friendlies, you are, I think, harder to beat than he is. It's close, but between your knowledge of the maps and blast prowess, I think you will be able to win in a relatively dominant fashion, especially given Cascade Falls is literally your map.
Yeah, he also picked that one against John though and was able to win. He's definitely good at it himself, so I have to think carefully about what I'm going to be picking here. Connie, you've also gone for another randomizer game between myself and Mazik. What are your thoughts on that one?
Um, Here the mentality is like the grand final. Obviously, I don't want it to be a sweep. I want it to be a really exciting game that has a lot of swings, a lot of moments where it feels like I'm about to faint while watching it live. Um, and it's also the sort of professor versus student fight. It's supposed to be exciting. I'm really excited to see this. And you're both really solid players, so I do think it's going to be very close.
I don't
That's my
feel great
mentality.
about you betting on me given your other results so far in playoffs. I'm gonna be honest.
It's fine. It's fine. Just don't worry about it.
All right. Anything about this matchup that like y'all are looking forward to seeing? Like any particular like maps, any particular like styles of play that you are interested to see like match up against each other? Nothing.
I think more than anything, I'm just excited to see the, you know, map knowledge you two demonstrate, what to piece together for, I think, myself and everyone's play, because there's going to be a lot of finicky little gimmicks that you both pull off that I don't think many people will know about. That'll be quite exciting to see.
Yep. I think there will be a lot of mind games potentially in the actual matches because both of us have a very similar outlook on a lot of these maps given we practice so much against each other. So I'll have to see if that has a role to play or if that changes, given both of us are not going to be practicing against each other this week for the first time. So, yeah, I'm excited. Best of luck to Mazik, and yeah, honored to be in the final. That is going to do it for the show. This was the last slide. Only 4 in the deck this week as the tournament comes to a close. Obviously, thanks so much to everyone for following up to this point. Is there anything that the two of you would like to say before we sign off here?
Honestly, just a blast to be back. It's so good. I forgot how great this community is. Love you all. Bloody hell. Why'd I ever leave?
Thanks for coming back, man. I never knew you before, but I'm sure it would be a much worse place when you weren't here. So glad to have you.
Hope not.
Anything to say, Connie?
Well, first of all, best of luck to you both. I really hope you put on a show for us. And second of all, I'm really glad to not have completely mentally checked out of multiplayer after my loss against Frostfire. Did have an episode. I'm really glad to have overcome it. I hope I won't have an episode like that again because this game is really fun and I really like multiplayer too. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. My final thoughts, if we may.
Perfect. Well, I'm super happy that I was able to get 2 excellent, intelligent minds on the show for our final episode in the 2025 season. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the weekly reviews. It's taken a lot of effort to put together every week. So if this is something that you would like to see in future tournaments, please let me know you enjoy it or suggestions for what to change. I always appreciate your feedback.
Subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe, smash the like button right now. Smash so that
Ring the bell.
Yeah.
Ring the notification bell.
Did you know that
Oh,
only 30% of my viewers are subscribed? Please.
I'm gonna subscribe. I'm gonna subscribe
Please
right now.
subscribe.
Please, guys. Okay. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, make sure to watch the third place Smash In finals. Have a good time. See ya.